Hello everyone, before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's dive into today's story. Emma texted her friend, "He's way too poor for me," then the ________ walked in as the keynote billionaire. Don't go anywhere, because this is a tale full of surprises, and you won't believe the twist at the end. Alright, let's get back to our main character. Emma Brooks was nervous. Her reflection in the glossy window outside the upscale restaurant was a stark reminder of her reality. The dress she wore was secondhand, her shoes were scuffed from the many miles of walking, and her nerves were as frayed as the hem of her dress. She had promised Jenny, her best friend, that she would go through with this blind date, but the sight of the extravagant restaurant made her feel out of place. As she stepped inside, the warmth of the place enveloped her, but it only highlighted how different she felt from everyone around her. The guests at the other tables were polished, confident, dressed in the finest attire. She, on the other hand, felt like an imposter. Her eye scanned the room, her heart racing, until she spotted him, an impeccably dressed man sitting alone near the back of the room, looking down at his phone. That had to be him. She took a deep breath, straightened her back, and walked over to him. She tried to force a smile, but her hands were shaking as she reached out to greet him. "Hi, you must be Kevin." "I'm Emma, nice to meet you." The man looked up, blinking in confusion. For a moment, he didn't seem to know what to say. Hi, Emma," he finally replied. Emma misread his confusion as shyness. She smiled even wider and sat down across from him. "I know this is awkward. Blind dates are always strange, right?" She chuckled nervously. "Jenny told me you might be a little shy, so don't worry, I can talk enough for both of us." He opened his mouth to say something but hesitated, glancing at his phone. His meeting had just been cancelled, and something about Emma's earnest smile made him pause. She was nothing like the polished socialites he usually dealt with. Instead, she seemed real, genuine in a way that was rare for him. He gave her a faint smile, a small tug at the corner of his lips. "Right. Blind dates are something else," he said softly. Emma laughed, her nerves easing just a little. She wasn't exactly comfortable in this setting, but his calm demeanor made her feel a little less out of place. "Tell me about yourself," she asked, eager to steer the conversation. "What do you do?" "I work in tech," he answered, his voice low. "Tech?" Emma asked, leaning forward with a bit of excitement. "Like coding and apps and stuff?" He smiled slightly. "Something like that." Emma laughed. "I'm terrible with computers, honestly. I don't even know the difference between a laptop and a desktop." He chuckled softly at her joke. It wasn't often he had these kinds of conversations. He usually found himself talking to people who only saw him as the CEO of a massive tech empire, but with Emma, it was different. She wasn't asking him about his wealth or his business ventures. She was just talking. And it felt refreshing. The conversation flowed easily. She told him about her life as a waitress, the struggles she faced just to pay rent, and her dream of one day opening her own art studio. He found himself laughing more than he had in months. Her stories were simple but filled with a kind of joy that he hadn't experienced in a long time. Emma smiled at him. "You're not what I expected," she said, her tone thoughtful. "I thought you'd be all business, but you're easy to talk to." He raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean by that?" "Well, Jenny said you were reserved," Emma explained, her cheeks flushing a little. "But you're actually really easygoing. I mean, not everyone could sit through a date with me and still be this calm." He smiled. "You're easy to talk to, too." Emma beamed, her anxiety slowly melting away. She was starting to feel comfortable with him. But just as she was about to ask him more about his work, her phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen, and her heart sank. It was a message from Jenny. "Hey, Emma, where are you? I'm at table 7, looking forward to meeting you. Kevin." Emma's stomach flipped. She looked up at the man sitting across from her, her face flushing with embarrassment. "You're not Kevin, are you?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The man's smile faltered slightly, and guilt flickered in his eyes. "No, I'm not," he admitted. Emma's face turned bright red, and she stood up quickly. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry," she muttered, fumbling with her purse. "I sat at the wrong table. I'm so embarrassed." Without waiting for him to say anything else, she grabbed her coat and hurried toward the door, her cheeks on fire. The man watched her go, a strange mix of regret and curiosity swirling in his chest. He had intended to correct her from the start, but now, he found himself wondering if he'd ever see her again. And why the thought of not seeing her bothered him so much. The next morning, Emma couldn't stop replaying the events from the previous night in her head. She'd been humiliated. After mistakenly sitting down at the wrong table, she had fled the restaurant, her face flushed with embarrassment. She had spent the night tossing and turning, questioning her actions. What had she been thinking? She couldn't believe she had sat down at the wrong table and spent the entire meal talking to a stranger. She hadn't even realized it until she saw the text from Jenny. And the worst part? She had left so quickly she didn't even get his name. Now, as she made her way to work at the cafe, the memory lingered in her mind. It wasn't like her to act that impulsively. Emma had always been in control, always careful. But something about the man, his calm demeanor, his easy smile, had made her forget all of that. She wondered if she would ever see him again. Maybe it was for the best. Maybe it was a sign that she needed to focus on herself and her dreams. But then her phone buzzed. It was a message from an unknown number. "Hi, Emma. This is Liam. I'm the guy you accidentally sat with last night. I know this is a bit forward, but I'd like to see you again. Coffee, maybe." Emma's heart skipped a beat. She stared at the message for a moment, her mind racing. Was this some kind of joke? Could it really be him? Liam? The man she had thought was just another person in her life, now texting her like it was no big deal. She hesitated. What was she supposed to do? The rational part of her said to just ignore the message. She didn't need this kind of complication in her life right now. She had enough to deal with: her job, her bills, her dream of one day opening her own art studio. But another part of her, the part that had been captivated by his easy smile and his calming presence, wanted to say yes. Maybe it was just coffee, but maybe it could lead to something more. Maybe it was time to take a chance. After a few moments, she finally typed back. "Okay, coffee sounds nice." She hit send before she could second-guess herself. The rest of the day passed in a blur. Every time she checked her phone, she found herself hoping for another message from Liam, but nothing came through. She tried to push the thought out of her mind. She couldn't afford to get distracted. When her shift finally ended, she grabbed her coat and rushed to the cafe where they had agreed to meet. As she walked inside, her nerves started to build again. She spotted him right away. He was sitting at a corner table, casually dressed in a simple grey sweater and jeans. There was no sign of the polished businessman she had imagined. Instead, he looked like any other guy, relaxed and approachable. She walked over to him, her heart pounding in her chest. "Hi," she said softly. "Hi, Emma," Liam replied, standing up and offering her a warm smile. "Thanks for meeting me." She slid into the chair across from him, trying to calm her nerves. "Of course," she said, her voice shaking just a little. "I'm sorry about last night." He chuckled. "There's nothing to apologize for. Honestly, it was kind of refreshing. You were just real." Emma felt a flush of warmth spread through her chest. "Well, I wasn't exactly expecting to sit at the wrong table," she said, laughing nervously. But I'm glad you weren't too upset about it. Liam shook his head. Not at all. I actually found it charming. You didn't know who I was. And I like that. Emma raised an eyebrow. You mean, you like that I didn't know you were a millionaire? Liam smiled. Exactly. It was nice to have a normal conversation with someone who wasn't interested in my bank account. You were just yourself. She couldn't help but feel a little more at ease. For the first time in what felt like forever, she wasn't thinking about her bills or her struggle to make ends meet. She was just talking. And it felt good. They spent the next hour chatting about everything and nothing. They talked about their favorite movies, their childhoods, and even their favorite coffee shops. As the conversation flowed, Emma found herself laughing more and more. There was something about Liam that made her feel comfortable, like she could relax and just be herself. After a while, Liam leaned back in his chair, studying her with a curious expression. "You've got a lot of dreams, don't you?" he asked. Emma nodded, her smile fading slightly. "Yeah. I do. I want to open my own art studio one day. But it feels like a long shot, you know? Like, I don't have the right connections or the right money." Liam's eye softened. "I get that. But you're talented, Emma. I can tell. Don't let anything hold you back." Emma felt a small spark of hope flicker inside her. She had always dreamed of owning her own studio, but she had never really believed it was possible. Maybe, just maybe, Liam was right. Maybe it wasn't as impossible as she thought. But as much as she wanted to believe in it, she couldn't ignore the reality of her situation. She had bills to pay, and the future seemed uncertain. As they wrapped up their coffee, Liam stood up and smiled at her. "I know we're just getting to know each other, but I'd like to help you, Emma. If you ever need anything, advice, connections, opportunities, let me know. I want to see you succeed." Emma blinked, taken aback by his words. Was he serious? She had barely known him for a day, and yet here he was, offering help. "Thank you," she said, her voice quiet. "I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything. Just promise me you won't give up on your dreams." Emma nodded, feeling a mixture of disbelief and gratitude. As they walked out of the cafe together, she couldn't help but wonder what this meant for her future. Maybe this was the beginning of something new. Maybe it was a chance to make her dreams come true. The next few days passed in a blur for Emma. She couldn't stop thinking about Liam and their conversation. He had been so kind, so encouraging, and it had left her feeling like maybe, just maybe, her dreams weren't as out of reach as she had always thought. He had offered her his help, even though they barely knew each other, and that gesture stuck with her. It was a reminder of how rare it was to meet someone who genuinely cared, without any hidden agenda. But despite the optimism he had sparked in her, Emma tried to focus on her life. She still had bills to pay, and the idea of opening an art studio still felt like an impossible dream. She tried to keep her head down, focusing on her shifts at the cafe, but no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't shake the memory of Liam's words. A week later, as Emma was finishing her shift, her phone buzzed. It was a message from Liam. "Hey Emma, I hope you're doing well. I've been thinking about our conversation, and I wanted to ask you something. I'm hosting a charity event next week, and I'd really like you to attend. It's a fundraiser for young artists, and I think you'd be a perfect fit. What do you think?" Emma stared at the message, her heart pounding. A charity event? A fundraiser for young artists? This was the kind of event she had always dreamed of being a part of, but the thought of walking into a room full of wealthy and influential people, especially with her modest background, made her nervous. She didn't know what to say. She wasn't sure if she belonged in that world. Still, she felt a spark of excitement. This could be the opportunity she had been waiting for, the chance to meet the right people and get her foot in the door. After taking a deep breath, she typed back, "Thank you for the invitation, Liam. I would love to attend. It sounds amazing." She hit send and immediately felt a rush of anxiety. What had she just agreed to? A few days later, Emma stood in front of her small closet, trying to figure out what to wear to the charity event. She didn't have anything fancy, nothing that would make her feel like she belonged at an event like this. She settled on a simple black dress that she had worn to a few family gatherings, something understated but decent. She made her way to the venue, a luxurious hall filled with chandeliers and the hum of conversation. The moment she walked in, she felt out of place. Everyone around her looked polished and confident, wearing designer clothes and laughing as though they had all known each other for years. Emma tugged at the hem of her dress and tried to stay calm. She could do this. She wasn't here to be anyone else. She was here to meet people who shared her passion for art, and maybe, just maybe, this could be her chance to start something new. She wandered through the room, feeling like a fish out of water. Her eye scanned the crowd, searching for a familiar face. That's when she saw him, Liam, standing by a corner, talking to a small group of people. He looked effortlessly elegant, wearing a sharp suit that made him blend in perfectly with the high society crowd. He caught her eye and smiled, his face lighting up as he waved her over. Emma felt her nerves bubble up again, but she forced herself to walk toward him. "Hey, Emma! I'm glad you made it," Liam greeted her warmly. "I'm happy to be here." "Thanks again for the invite," she said, trying to sound confident. "I'm glad you came." "There's someone I want you to meet," Liam said, gesturing to a man standing nearby. The man was older, wearing glasses and a tailored suit, and his handshake was firm as he introduced himself as a well-known art curator. Emma's heart raced. She hadn't expected to meet someone like him, someone who could potentially help her with her dreams. "I've heard great things about you, Emma. Your passion for art is inspiring," the curator said with a smile. Emma didn't know what to say. She had never thought of herself as inspiring, but hearing it from someone like him made her feel like maybe she had something to offer after all. Liam stood by, watching the interaction with a quiet smile on his face. As the evening wore on, Emma felt more and more at ease. She spoke with several other people, all of them passionate about the arts in their own ways. She didn't feel like the odd one out anymore. By the time the event was wrapping up, Liam approached her again. "I'm glad you came, Emma," he said softly. "I hope you found some inspiration tonight." She smiled, feeling a warmth spread through her. "I did. More than I ever expected." Liam's expression softened, and for a moment, it felt like the rest of the world had faded away. "I believe in you, Emma. Don't forget that." She nodded, feeling the weight of his words settle in her chest. Maybe this was just the beginning, maybe it wasn't, but she knew one thing for sure: she couldn't let this opportunity slip away. As she walked out of the venue, her mind raced with the possibilities ahead. She had no idea where this would lead, but for the first time in a long time, Emma felt like she was on the right path. The days following the charity event felt like a whirlwind to Emma. She couldn't stop thinking about everything that had happened. The connection she made, the encouragement from Liam, and most of all, the surprise of meeting people who believed in her dreams. She had always worked hard, but now, it seemed like things might actually be starting to come together. Still, doubts lingered in the back of her mind. Was she really cut out for this world? She couldn't ignore the nagging feeling that maybe she was just pretending, that she didn't really belong among these people. The next day, as she was closing up the cafe, she received another message from Liam. "Hey Emma, I hope everything is going well. I was talking to a few people about your artwork, and they're interested in seeing more. I'd love for you to meet them. Would you be available next week?" Emma's heart skipped a beat. Could this really be happening? She had barely started believing in herself, and now it seemed like the universe was throwing her a lifeline. Without thinking, she quickly typed back, "Yes, I'd love to meet them. Thank you for thinking of me." The next week, Emma walked into a gallery space that looked like something out of her dreams. The walls were lined with stunning artwork, and the soft lighting made everything look even more magical. She felt her nerves rising, but she tried to calm herself. This was her chance. She could do this. Liam greeted her with his usual warm smile. You made it. I'm glad to see you again, he said, leading her through the gallery. These are the people I mentioned. They're looking for new artists to collaborate with, and I thought you might be the perfect fit. Emma's heart raced as she was introduced to the group. There were artists, curators, and a few wealthy investors, all of them eager to see what she had created. Liam stood by her side, a quiet support that helped her feel a little more at ease. Take your time, he said gently. Just show them your work and tell them about your vision. She nodded, feeling the weight of the moment. For years, she had dreamed of this opportunity, but now that it was finally in front of her, she was overwhelmed with self-doubt. But as she set up her art for display, something inside her clicked. She remembered why she had started drawing in the first place, because it made her feel alive, because it was her passion. Slowly, she started talking about her work, sharing the story behind each piece. The room fell silent as they listened to her, and for the first time, Emma didn't feel out of place. She felt seen. As the night went on, the investors showed increasing interest in her art, asking questions and discussing potential opportunities. By the end of the evening, Emma was exhausted but exhilarated. She had never imagined that one night could change so much. As the guests started to leave, Liam pulled her aside. I'm really proud of you, he said. You did great tonight. Emma's heart swelled with gratitude. Thank you, Liam. I don't know how to explain it, but this feels like everything I've worked for is finally coming together. He smiled softly. You deserve this, Emma. You've worked hard for it, and you're just getting started. Over the next few days, Emma was contacted by several art collectors and investors who wanted to purchase her work or offer her gallery space. She was overwhelmed by the response. It felt like everything was happening so fast, but she couldn't help but feel excited for the future. Liam had become not just a mentor but a friend, someone who believed in her when she had trouble believing in herself. Yet, despite all the success, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that there was something more to Liam than met the eye. She knew he was wealthy, but she hadn't learned much about his personal life. He had always kept things professional, never sharing much about himself. One evening, after a long day of meetings, Emma and Liam sat down for coffee at the same cafe where they had first met. Liam, Emma began, I just wanted to say thank you. I don't think I could have done this without you. Liam gave her a knowing smile. You could have. You just needed someone to see it in you. Emma looked at him, her curiosity getting the best of her. I've been meaning to ask, you've helped me so much, but I don't really know much about you. You're always so focused on others, but I don't know what's going on in your life. Liam paused for a moment, his eyes thoughtful. There's not much to tell, he said finally. I'm just a guy who's made some good decisions and now I'm in a position to help others. That's really all there is to it. Emma nodded, but she could sense there was more to the story. She didn't press him, though. Maybe it wasn't the right time to ask. As they sat there, talking about everything and nothing, Emma felt a deep sense of peace settle over her. She was on the right path now. Whatever the future held, she knew she was ready for it. And whatever secret Liam was hiding, she knew that her journey was just beginning. The following weeks were a blur for Emma as her life seemed to shift into a higher gear. Her artwork was getting attention, and the opportunities she had once only dreamed of were now within her grasp. Liam had kept his promise to help her, connecting her with influential people who believed in her talent. But despite everything, there was still something that kept nagging at Emma's mind, Liam. She couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to him than just being the supportive mentor he presented himself as. She had learned a lot about his business successes and his ability to network with some of the city's wealthiest people, but when it came to his personal life, he remained a mystery. He was always polite, always there when she needed him, but never revealed much about himself. One evening, after another successful gallery showing, Emma found herself sitting with Liam at a small cafe, nursing a warm cup of coffee. They had spent the evening discussing her next big project, which was getting more traction than she had expected. I can't believe this is all happening, Emma said, leaning back in her chair, her eyes wide with disbelief. "It feels like a dream." Liam smiled, but there was something unreadable in his expression. "You've worked hard for this," he replied softly. "You deserve it." She looked at him, sensing that he was holding something back. "You know, Liam," she began, "I've been meaning to ask you something." Liam raised an eyebrow, his curiosity piqued. "What is it?" "You've helped me so much, but I feel like I don't really know you. You've told me all about your business and how you help others, but you've never really shared anything about your personal life," Emma said, her voice gentle but filled with genuine curiosity. Liam's smile faded slightly, and he looked away for a moment, his gaze distant. "There's not much to tell," he said quietly, almost as if the words were rehearsed. "I've worked hard to get to where I am, but I don't really talk about my personal life." "It's not important." Emma studied him closely. She could tell that there was more, but she didn't want to push him. Maybe he just wasn't ready to share. Instead, she shifted the conversation to her next big show, but the silence between them lingered. There was a quiet tension, something unspoken that she couldn't quite understand. Over the next few days, Emma's mind kept drifting back to Liam's words. She had always believed that people who kept their personal lives private had something to hide, but she didn't want to assume anything. He had been nothing but kind to her, offering his help and support when she needed it most. But why did he seem so closed off? And what was the reason behind his reluctance to share more about himself? One night, after another long day of work, Emma was getting ready to call it a night when her phone buzzed. It was a message from Liam. "Hey Emma, I hope you're doing well. I've been thinking about our conversation, and I think it's time I tell you something." Emma felt a sudden rush of nerves. What was this about? She quickly typed back, "What is it, Liam?" The reply came almost instantly. "I think we need to talk in person. I'll explain everything. How about tomorrow?" Emma's heart began to race. There was something in his message that made her feel like this wasn't just a casual conversation. She didn't know what to expect, but she knew she couldn't ignore it. The next day, Emma arrived at the cafe early, her mind racing with thoughts of what Liam might reveal. She hadn't heard from him since the message, and the waiting was starting to get to her. When Liam finally walked in, his face was unreadable, but there was a weight to his step that Emma hadn't seen before. He sat down across from her, his usual calm demeanor replaced by a quiet seriousness. "Emma," he began, his voice low, "I owe you an explanation. There's something I've been keeping from you, and I think you deserve to know the truth." Emma's pulse quickened. This was it. This was the moment she had been waiting for, and yet, she wasn't sure if she was ready. "What is it?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Liam took a deep breath, his gaze steady. "The truth is, I'm not just the businessman I've presented myself as. I'm also the owner of the company that funds the gallery and the charity event you attended. I've been involved in the arts for years, but I've kept my identity hidden from the public. I wanted to see who you were without knowing all of that, to see if you were truly passionate about your work, and not just the opportunities it could bring you." Emma's breath caught in her throat. "Wait, you mean you've been testing me?" Liam nodded, his expression regretful. "I know it sounds bad, and I never intended for it to go this far, but I've been following your progress closely. I wanted to make sure you were the real deal, someone who genuinely cared about their art and not just the fame or fortune that comes with it." Emma felt a mix of emotions, anger, confusion, but also a strange sense of relief. The mystery was over, and yet, she wasn't sure what to make of it. She had trusted Liam, and now she felt betrayed, even though he had helped her more than anyone else. "I don't know what to say," Emma said, her voice trembling. "I thought you were just helping me because you believed in me, not because you were testing me." Liam reached out, his hand gently touching hers. "I do believe in you, Emma. I'm sorry for the way I handled things. I didn't mean to hurt you. But now that you know the truth, I want to make it right. I want you to have the opportunity you deserve, without any more games." Emma looked at him, her heart torn. She wanted to believe him, but part of her still felt betrayed. "I don't know if I can trust you again," she whispered, her voice breaking. Liam nodded slowly, his eyes filled with regret. "I understand. But I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere. I want to make it up to you, Emma. I'll be here when you're ready." The days following Liam's confession were a blur for Emma. She couldn't stop thinking about the truth he had revealed. She had always been the kind of person to put her heart into everything she did, but now, that trust felt like it had been shattered. She had spent the past few weeks questioning everything, not just about Liam, but about herself. Was she really that naive? Did she let herself get carried away by someone's charm without considering their intentions? Emma knew she needed time to process everything, but as she walked through the door of her apartment, she found herself staring at the piles of sketches and unfinished pieces of art scattered around her small studio. For the first time in a while, she didn't feel inspired. The weight of the situation with Liam seemed to have drained the creativity right out of her. Her phone buzzed on the counter, and for a moment, she debated whether to ignore it. But when she saw that it was a message from him, she couldn't resist. "Hey Emma, I know you need some space, but I just wanted to let you know I'm thinking of you. I really am sorry for everything. If you need anything, I'm here. No pressure." She stared at the message for a while before replying. "I'm still trying to process everything. I don't know where we go from here, but I appreciate you giving me the space to think." As soon as she sent the message, a wave of doubt washed over her. She had just opened the door again, and she wasn't sure if she was ready for that. It had been easier to walk away, to push him out of her life entirely, but something about his sincerity kept pulling her back. The next few days were quiet. Emma kept herself busy with work, but every time she looked at her art, she felt that same sense of hesitation creeping in. She had been so focused on making her dreams come true, but now, it felt like everything was slipping away. That is, until one evening, when she received a call from an unknown number. "Emma," the voice on the other end asked. "It's Liam. I was wondering if you'd be interested in meeting me for dinner. I know it's been a few weeks, but I'd really like the chance to explain myself properly. I don't want things to end like this." Emma's heart skipped a beat. She hadn't expected to hear from him so soon, but she knew she couldn't avoid it forever. She agreed, and they set a date for the following evening. The next day, Emma stood in front of her mirror, running her fingers over the hem of her dress, trying to convince herself that she was ready for this. She had no idea what Liam wanted to say, but a part of her still hoped that they could find a way to move forward. When she arrived at the restaurant, she spotted Liam immediately. He stood up as she walked in, and for the first time, she saw a look of vulnerability in his eyes that she hadn't noticed before. "Thank you for coming," he said quietly, gesturing to the chair across from him. Emma sat down, her stomach doing flips. There was an awkward silence between them for a moment, and then Liam cleared his throat. "I know what I did was wrong," he began, his voice steady but full of regret. "I should have told you who I was from the start, and I'm sorry for not being upfront with you. I didn't want you to think I was offering you opportunities just because of who I am. I wanted you to trust me for who I am, not for my wealth or status." Emma looked at him, her heart still conflicted. She could see the sincerity in his eyes, but she also couldn't ignore the sting of betrayal. "Liam, I don't know what to say," she admitted, her voice soft. "I understand what you were trying to do, but it's hard to just forget everything. I trusted you, and now I feel like I don't know what's real anymore." Liam nodded, his expression filled with regret. "I get that. And I don't expect you to just forgive me. But I do want to show you that I'm not just some businessman or millionaire. I'm someone who believes in you, Emma. I've seen your passion, your drive, and I want to be there for you, not just as someone who can help your career, but as someone who wants to see you happy and succeed on your own terms." Emma listened to his words carefully, feeling a shift in the air around them. Maybe, just maybe, she had been too quick to judge. "I don't know if I can just turn this off," she said slowly. "But I do know that you've given me a chance to believe in myself again. And for that, I'm grateful." Liam smiled softly, his gaze never leaving hers. "That's all I've ever wanted, Emma. For you to believe in yourself. As the evening went on, the tension between them began to melt away. They talked about everything and nothing, just as they had when they first met. And by the end of the night, Emma realized that while she wasn't ready to fully forgive Liam yet, she wasn't ready to walk away from him either. She didn't know where this was going, but for the first time in a long time, she felt like she was moving forward. There was still a long road ahead, but with Liam by her side, she knew she could face whatever came next. The weeks that followed were filled with both tension and excitement for Emma. She had begun to trust Liam again, but the fear of being hurt still lingered in the back of her mind. She was balancing her work at the cafe with her growing success as an artist, but every time she received a message from Liam, she couldn't help but feel a little thrill, mixed with doubt. He had been nothing but kind and supportive since their last meeting, but Emma knew that letting someone in meant taking risks. She wasn't sure if she was ready to let her guard down completely, but part of her wanted to believe that this time things could be different. One afternoon, as Emma was preparing for her next art show, Liam reached out again. "I've been thinking," his message began, "about the gallery you mentioned, the one you've always dreamed of opening. I want to help you make that dream a reality. I know people who can offer you the support you need to get started. Let me know when you have time to meet." Emma stared at the message, her heart racing. She had always dreamed of opening her own gallery, but she never imagined she would have the opportunity to do so. The idea of accepting his help felt both thrilling and terrifying. What would it mean for their relationship? Could she trust him enough to accept such a big gesture? She hesitated, but deep down, she knew she couldn't pass up this chance. "Thank you, Liam," she typed back. "I'd love to meet and talk about it. Let's figure out a time." When they met a few days later, Liam took her to a sleek, modern office building in the heart of the city. The polished glass walls and pristine floors made Emma feel like she was stepping into another world, one she had always dreamed of but never felt a part of. Liam led her to a conference room where a group of investors and art collectors were waiting. They all greeted her warmly, and she could feel the weight of their attention on her. "This is Emma Brooks," Liam said, his voice steady and confident. "She's an incredibly talented artist, and I think we can help her create something truly special." Emma's heart pounded in her chest, but she forced herself to stay calm. This was the moment she had been waiting for, the moment she would prove to herself that she belonged in this world. She spoke about her vision, about the kind of gallery she wanted to create, a space where art wasn't just about selling, but about connecting with people. As she spoke, she could see the investors listening intently, nodding in approval. For the first time, Emma felt like she was being taken seriously. After the meeting, Liam took her aside. "You did great," he said with a smile. "You've got something special, Emma. Don't ever forget that." She smiled back, her nerves starting to settle. "Thank you, Liam. I couldn't have done this without you." As they walked out of the building together, Emma felt a sense of pride that she hadn't felt in a long time. She was on the path to creating her dream, and Liam had helped her get there. But even as she felt a sense of accomplishment, she couldn't shake the nagging feeling that something was still missing. She wasn't sure if it was her lingering trust issues or the fear of getting too close to Liam, but she knew that there was more to their relationship than just business. A few days later, Liam invited her to a private dinner. The restaurant was intimate, with soft candlelight casting a warm glow over the room. As they sat down to eat, Emma couldn't help but notice how different Liam seemed. He was more relaxed, his usual business demeanor replaced with something more personal. "I've been thinking a lot about what you said," Liam started, his voice quiet. "About us. About the fact that I've been hiding so much from you." Emma looked at him, her heart skipping a beat. She had been wondering when he would address it. "I never meant to hurt you, Emma," he continued. "I thought I could protect you by keeping my distance, by not letting you see everything about me. But I was wrong. You deserve to know the real me, and I want you to understand why I've acted the way I have." Emma listened carefully, her curiosity piqued. "You don't have to explain yourself, Liam. I just want to know where we stand. I don't want to keep feeling like there's something I'm missing." He nodded, taking a deep breath. I'm not perfect, Emma. But what I do know is that I care about you. I care about what happens to you, and I want to be a part of your life. Not just as a mentor or a business partner, but as someone who wants to be there for you, who wants to share something real. Emma felt a mixture of emotions, surprise, confusion, but also a warmth that she hadn't felt in a long time. She had been so focused on her own dreams that she hadn't allowed herself to see what was right in front of her. Liam wasn't just a businessman or a mentor, he was someone who saw her, someone who cared. She felt the walls around her heart begin to soften, but she wasn't sure if she was ready to let him in completely. She wasn't sure if she could take that step, especially after everything that had happened. I don't know if I'm ready for all of this, she admitted, her voice trembling slightly. But I want to try. I think I want to see where this goes. Liam smiled, a look of relief crossing his face. That's all I can ask for, Emma. Let's take it one step at a time. As they finished their meal, Emma felt like a weight had been lifted off her shoulders. She wasn't sure what the future held, but for the first time, she felt like she was ready to face it head-on, with Liam by her side. The days that followed were filled with anticipation for Emma. She was finally starting to feel like her life was falling into place. Her art was getting more recognition, the gallery that Liam had helped her set up was getting more attention than she ever imagined, and her bond with him seemed to be growing stronger. Yet, despite everything falling into place professionally, a part of her still wrestled with uncertainty. She had let her guard down, but there was a lingering fear that perhaps the truth of who Liam was, and the circumstances of their relationship, could still hurt her. She couldn't ignore the thought that had been growing in the back of her mind, how much of what was happening between them was real, and how much was just another layer of Liam's carefully constructed world. It was a question she couldn't answer, at least not yet. One evening, after a long day at the gallery, Emma met Liam for dinner at the same cafe they had visited before. He had asked her to join him to discuss the future of the gallery, but Emma sensed there was something more to this meeting. As she walked in, she found Liam already seated at a corner table, his usual easy smile replaced by a more serious expression. He stood as she approached, greeting her warmly but with a hint of tension in his eyes. "Hey, Emma. Glad you could make it," he said softly. "Of course," she replied, sitting down across from him. "What's on your mind?" Liam paused, his fingers tracing the edge of his coffee cup. "I've been thinking a lot about us," he said, his voice low. Emma's heart skipped a beat. She had known this conversation was coming. "About what?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. Liam took a deep breath before looking up at her, his eyes filled with a mix of determination and vulnerability. "I know I've been distant. I know I've kept things from you. But the truth is, I care about you, Emma. More than I've allowed myself to admit." Emma felt a flutter in her chest at his words, but she held back. "I care about you too, Liam," she said softly. "But I need to know that this, whatever this is between us, is real. I need to know that I'm not just a part of some plan or experiment for you." Liam's gaze softened, and he reached across the table to take her hand in his. "I get it. And I'm sorry for making you feel like you were just a part of something that wasn't real. I never meant for that to happen." Emma looked at their hands, feeling the warmth of his touch, but also the weight of everything that had come before. She knew she had to ask the hard questions. "Then why did you hide who you were from the start? Why didn't you just tell me who you were, from the beginning?" Liam's eyes darkened slightly, his expression turning more serious. "I didn't want you to see me as just another rich guy offering you a handout. I wanted you to see me for who I am, not for the money or the influence I have. I thought that if I kept my identity hidden, it would give you the chance to see me, not my status." Emma felt a wave of frustration wash over her. But it wasn't just about the money or the status, Liam. It was about trust. "You made me feel like I didn't matter enough for you to be honest with me." He winced at her words, clearly hurt. "I never wanted to hurt you, Emma. I thought that by helping you without you knowing who I was, I could show you that I believed in your talent, not your connection to me. But I see now that it was a mistake." Emma looked at him, her emotions conflicting. She wanted to believe him, she really did, but the doubt was still there. I just don't know if I can keep doing this, Liam. I don't know if I can keep moving forward with you, knowing that I'm still not seeing the whole picture. He nodded, his expression softening. I understand. And if you need space, I'll give it to you. I want what's best for you, Emma. If that means stepping back, I'll do it. But I just want you to know that my feelings for you are real. I care about you in ways I never expected to care about anyone. Emma's heart ached at his words. She knew he was being honest with her, but she couldn't help but feel conflicted. She had worked so hard to build her career, to prove herself on her own terms, and now it felt like everything was tangled up in this relationship. Could she truly trust Liam, and let herself fall for him, knowing how complicated things had become? She wasn't sure. After a long pause, Emma finally spoke. I need time to figure this out, Liam. I need to be sure of what I want before I take the next step. Liam nodded slowly, his eyes filled with understanding. Take all the time you need, Emma. I'm not going anywhere. I'm here, whenever you're ready. The rest of the evening passed in quiet conversation, the tension between them slowly fading. As they left the cafe together, Emma couldn't help but feel a sense of relief. She didn't have all the answers yet, but for the first time in a long time, she felt like she was moving in the right direction, even if she didn't know exactly where that path would lead. She wasn't sure where her relationship with Liam would go, but she knew one thing for certain, she wasn't ready to give up on herself or her dreams. And maybe, just maybe, with Liam's support, she could find a way to make them both a reality. Over the next few weeks, Emma focused on herself and her work. She kept pushing forward, managing to land a few more gallery shows, and her reputation as an artist grew. With each passing day, she became more confident in her own abilities. Yet, even as her professional life flourished, her thoughts still lingered on Liam. She couldn't deny the connection they had, the support he had given her, and the undeniable attraction between them. But she was still unsure about her feelings. She wasn't ready to rush into anything, especially when it came to trusting him fully after everything that had happened. But she knew one thing for certain, she couldn't ignore the feelings that were starting to take root. One evening, as Emma was leaving the gallery after a successful exhibition, she found a text message waiting for her from Liam. Hey Emma, I've been thinking about you a lot lately. I know you need time, but I wanted to ask you something. I'm hosting a private dinner next week for a few close friends and business associates, and I'd really love for you to come. It's important to me, and I think it would be a great opportunity for you to meet some influential people in the art world. Emma paused, her fingers hovering over the screen. She wasn't sure if she was ready for another big step with Liam, but the invitation intrigued her. She knew this could be an opportunity she couldn't pass up. With a deep breath, she typed back, I'll be there. Thank you for thinking of me. The day of the dinner arrived, and Emma found herself standing in front of a beautiful restaurant with grand windows, a sleek black exterior, and a view of the city skyline. It was an intimate gathering, but the high-end venue was still intimidating. As she walked inside, she was greeted warmly by Liam, who was already in conversation with a few people. His smile was genuine as he saw her enter, and for a moment, Emma felt a surge of comfort. Liam led her to a table where several guests were seated. She felt out of place at first, but Liam introduced her as one of the artists he was supporting, and the conversation soon shifted toward her work. She found herself discussing her art with ease, sharing her vision and experiences, and the more she spoke, the more she realized how far she had come. As the evening went on, Emma began to see Liam in a new light. It wasn't just his wealth or influence that attracted her, it was his belief in her art, and in her ability to succeed. He wasn't just some billionaire businessman, he was a man who genuinely cared about helping others reach their full potential, and that was something Emma could respect. When the evening started winding down, Liam took Emma aside, away from the crowd. I'm really proud of you, Emma, he said quietly. I know it hasn't been easy, but you've come so far. I'm here for you, not just because of your art, but because I want to see you happy. Emma felt a lump form in her throat at his words. For the first time, she realized that she wasn't just looking at a mentor or a business partner, she was looking at someone who saw her, truly saw her. "Thank you, Liam," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I've been so scared to trust anyone again, but you've made me feel like I can. I'm starting to believe in myself, because you believe in me." Liam smiled, his expression softening. "You should believe in yourself, Emma. You have everything it takes to succeed." The night ended, and Emma walked back to her apartment, her heart full of new emotions. She still wasn't sure what the future held, but she knew she couldn't keep living in fear. She had to embrace the opportunities in front of her, including her connection with Liam. The next few days, Emma threw herself into her work, focusing on the art that had always been her true passion. She received an offer for her first solo show in one of the most prestigious galleries in the city. It was everything she had dreamed of, but this time, she didn't feel alone. She felt supported. She felt seen. And as she stood in front of her artwork at the opening night of the gallery, Liam was there, standing by her side. "You did it," he whispered to her, his voice full of pride. "This is just the beginning." Emma smiled, her heart swelling with gratitude. She had come so far, not just in her art but in her personal growth. She wasn't the same person who had walked into Liam's life months ago. She had learned to trust, to believe in herself, and to take risks. As the night continued, Emma realized that the most important thing wasn't just the success she had achieved, it was the connection she had made, the people who had supported her, and the love that had blossomed between her and Liam. Maybe the road had been long and uncertain, but in the end, Emma knew that she had everything she needed to create a life she was proud of. A life that was built on trust, love, and the belief that anything was possible.